Hello and welcome to the All-In with Bad Beat Bryce and Ryan. How you doing today, Ryan?
Oh, geez, Bryce, you kind of cut out there a little bit. Do you mind running that one back for us and giving us a nice hearty introduction to the podcast?
This is the All-In Poker Podcast with Bad Beat Bryce and Ryan the Rock. How are you doing today, Ryan?
There we go. Yeah, that sounded much better. I'm doing very well, Bryce. Thank you very much for asking. I appreciate it. It's good to be back after our little hiatus.
Yeah, we did have a few weeks off there. Was that about 3 weeks off? That's the longest break we've had since the inception of the podcast.
Yeah, we finally, this podcast was born out of the pandemic, and the pandemic was incredibly convenient for us in order to do this because we didn't have a lot else going on. But now coming out of the pandemic, like work's picked up for me and for you. You're hitting the ground running with poker stuff. So, for me, I have an exciting journey. Next week, I'm going up to New Hampshire to play at the stomping grounds of the one, the only Rampage Poker at Boston Billiards Club. So I'm really, really excited to see that card room. I've only really ever played in casinos and that one place at Derby Lane. So I'm really interested to see what this card room atmosphere is like, where it's just like, a dedicated basically to poker and a little bit to pool.
I wouldn't really say it's that different of an environment. Poker is roped off from the other stuff. Yeah, when you lose a session, you can't go and punt in the pits, but it's not like you do that anyway. But yeah. I wouldn't say it's fair. Too different. But yeah. How would you feel? How do you think that you being in the live grind again has been compared to online? Because obviously, was there much of an adjustment period for you, or has it been pretty smooth?
Yeah, no, you've been hearing about it a lot. Where I think the greatest difference for me between online and live is that I'm struggling with all of the variables that go on in multi-way pots. Because in live, you find yourself in a lot more scenarios where you're going, 4 or 5 ways, or really 3, 4, 5 ways, far more often than you are online, where usually you're, if you're going 3 ways, that's pretty much as big as it gets. Like 4-way, 5-way pots are pretty, not standard. So navigating those pots has been probably the most difficult thing for me because I really struggle with how to size and what hands, I struggle with evaluating where my value is, you know what I'm saying? Like these multi-way pods.
I think it's more than that. I think it's more not even like where your value is and the strength of your hand. I think you conceptually have difficulties knowing when to c-bet based on how many people are in the pot, given the board textures. And I think that just comes with both studying as well as just putting in the hours. And while you've put in a decent volume online, you absolutely haven't put that many hours live. And also, you haven't seen that many hands, to be honest. You've studied a decent bit, whatever, but you've read the books, but you haven't actually put in the thousands of hands required to understand different board textures and all these different situations. But it sounds like you do know the necessary adjustments that you need to make, such as just sizing up pre-flop so that we're not going 5 ways to a flop. But that'll just come with the experience for sure.
And that was probably the only really immediate fix that if you're listening right now and you're saying, oh, I too struggle in multi-way pots, and you look at yourself and you're saying, oh, when 2 people limp, I'm still opening to 20 at 2-5. No, over a single limper now, I'm opening to 30, 35. And over
you've absolutely gotten better at that,
and it helps. It really does. Now even if you do get cold called in one spot, it's still less likely that you're going to get 2 or 3 or 4 callers.
Yeah, absolutely. To answer my own question, I guess, about how my live grind has been, obviously I came back a lot sooner than you did. I don't even know how long it's been, man. The months have blurred. Probably 6-7 months ago I came. I definitely didn't have that fear of just being around people that we talked about that you had a little bit. So that was interesting. But I think tournament poker, I've obviously been playing a lot more tournaments as I went out there for the Tampa series. I played the WPT, Hollywood,
casually
et cetera, et cetera.
tabled one of the biggest tournament, well, the biggest tournament at the time in Texas history.
Oh, no. I'm not even talking about that tournament. I thought you were trolling and talking about my Derby Lane final table. I was like, dude.
Gassing you up out here right now, okay?
Yeah, no, that was good. But yeah, I'd say it's been pretty frustrating the last 2. So I think I've been playing just so well, and I've been running like fair to the point where I'm obviously cashing or whatnot. But it's frustrating when I'm getting in these scenarios. I mean, I don't want to be that bad beat bitching guy, but when I get in the ace king suited versus the ace queen off, and he goes there with 25 people left in the WP tournament, like it hurts. Or the queen flop and I've got ace king and he's got 10s and he turns the 10, like that, it's not fun. Every single tournament that I ran deep in while I was in Florida, I just got smacked with it deep. But I mean, obviously can't complain. You come out of tournaments and you're not losing it. But at the same time, I was putting in like 60-70 hour weeks, like stupid amount. So it was good. Last week I was out in Colorado to get some rest, and yeah, I'm and ready to gear up for the World Series. Gonna go out for that. Actually gonna play some bracelet events at the end of the month, going out to Jersey. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely excited for tournaments. The itch has just gotten worse and worse, and I'm turning more into a tournament player. Obviously, cash is the bread and butter, but definitely getting after the tournament grind. And we have an amazing tournament player today. I'll wait to interview.
Yeah. So without further ado, I'll get this thing kicked off. So this week on the All In Poker podcast, we are featuring another fantastic member of the poker community. Alex Fitzgerald has been a professional poker player since he was 18 years old, 2006. Collecting over $3 million in online tournament winnings and over $600,000 in live tournament winnings. In addition to his success on the felt, Alex wrote 2 books, Exploitative Play in Live Poker and The Myth of Poker Talent, created his own coaching site named after his online poker tag, assassinatopoker.com, and partnered with Jonathan Little on several books and poker coaching content. We are unbelievably thankful to have him on the show, and without further ado, let's welcome Alex Fitzgerald to the podcast.
Hey, guys. Happy to be here. Welcome, Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Excited to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
So do you want to I want to get this kicked off. So, I mean, this is kind of funny because we were talking about this. Your arm is in your wrist is in a brace.
Oh, yeah.
Years and years of grind. And one of the really interesting things about you is that poker has truly been your one profession in life. You didn't do something first and then come to poker. From 18 on, your main source of income was poker. How has your passion for the game changed at all over your years of play? And are you as excited now as you were when you were 18 to go down and play a session either online or live?
Man, that's a good question. A lot of people don't ask that one. I was lucky enough that I did work before poker. I didn't have a profession, like you said, but I did work other jobs, and those jobs were the type of jobs you don't want to be working. My dad put me to work at 12 on one of his fishing boats. So I was a commercial fisherman too, up in Alaska. I was a security guard. I moved Persian carpets. I was a landscaper and a grunt at Arby's. Yeah. So, I mean, I was couch surfing in high school, so I had to pay bills, but once I started playing poker, I thought, man, this is an air-conditioned room.
It's not a boat.
yeah. I just sit around and wait for aces. I like this. This is nice. But yeah, I guess having that kind of to build into, there was a time, oh man, like the passion about it. I didn't have much of a plan after becoming professional. Just the whole goal was go pro. Don't do these kind of jobs anymore. And then once I got there, I thought to myself, I didn't really know what to do. I wasn't ready for it because nobody ever pictures that part of the dream. So my passion waned at that time. I didn't have goals and I wasn't ready to be the breadwinner in my family. Once I started really pushing myself to get better at the game in all its facets, I really started enjoying it again. I love competing. The more I've taken care of my health, the more I've enjoyed it. But it's just like any relationship. It takes work, you got to put in work. You got to find new things to appreciate. You got to date the game too, right? You got to come up with new angles. You got to see things. Yeah.
That's a good analogy. I really like that.
I'm glad you like that, man.
For sure. My first question for you is, there seems to be players who tend to deviate towards two different camps, the GTO players and the exploitative players, such as the Antonio Esfandiaris, Matt Berkeys, etc. You assert that some experienced players behave in a predictable way that hurts their profitability. Why do you think it is a mistake to be strictly GTO in poker?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, let me try to get specific as I can. I think all of us, if we're being perfectly honest, get into bad habits that someone could exploit.
Yeah.
There's not a GTO player alive that doesn't exploit certain players. If you got a guy that's never going to fold, just value bet him to death and you don't really need to balance. Now, obviously that makes you exploitable, but if he's drunk because he just wandered out of a nightclub and he's at the Venetian, it doesn't really matter. And I think even the GTO players would tell you, oh yeah, on that point, I don't balance, but most GTO players would tell you that you can use GTO to understand when to exploit others. But it's super important when you're playing unknown regs, and this is what I struggle with, to have a GTO game. That's why I work with friends of mine who understand GTO and GTO coaches, because like if you're playing cash games, even like 100 NL, if you're playing on the big .com sites or something like that, people are going to turn pairs into bluffs. So you better know, I got to defend exactly this if I think he's running this many bluffs like he should be, and I better just hit the call button and see what happens. Because if you don't have that, you might be overfolding a little bit and you could get exploited. And you can get away with that live because people are afraid to bluff live, especially in the States where people are going to judge you. But in other parts of the world, you better be ready to gamble up and you better know what you're supposed to be defending.
100%. Well said.
Yeah, so you do think it's more common do you think it's less common in America for people to bluff than abroad? Just in
yeah, in America it's almost like, oh, look at you trying, right? Like whenever you get caught bluffing, it's like, oh, look at you trying. I'm like, man, I just thought you fold. Whereas in like, I've heard in Spain they clap you on the back. In Brazil, I had a guy hug me after I got caught bluffing. He was like, "Good man, play, man," and I'm like, "What the hell? Like,
what is happening?"
Yeah, exactly. Which was fun. You know, it's a different culture, and there's no social faux pas in Eastern Europe if you're running a bluff, right? But in America, it's kind of like, "Hey, man, look, this is." If you think about it, in the United States, we grow up playing cards. When you're 6 years old, you played cards with your dad. Yeah. In Europe, you play chess or something. So if you're into poker, you're really into poker in Europe, right? So it's okay to be running those bluffs and whatnot. But if you're sitting with your family and you start 3-betting their ass, they're not into that. And it's the same thing at the card room, right? Like, what are you doing, man? Just raise whatever you want to raise, call with whatever you want to call with. We'll all see the flop and we'll take it from there. And nobody feels bad about themselves.
Especially at the lower stakes, like when someone's opening so many hands or mad. They're like, oh, like this is so frustrating. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and the answer is always, I just want to gamble, man. I mean, come on, man. I don't want to talk. That's for the work day. I just wanted to play cards.
Right. Yeah. There you go. You want to hit him with the next question, Ryan?
Yeah. So you've gone by the screen name Assassinato, and I'm don't know if I'm butchering that.
Yeah, you got that. You got it. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, this has been your tag pretty much forever. And what's the origin story behind that tag?
Man, it's so stupid. My father remarried in Brazil, and I want to say I heard that word when I was down there, but you know, the older you get, the more you want to be accurate about everything. So you start thinking back on it and you go, I don't even know if that's true. So I want to say I heard that word or I saw it somewhere and I was like, Assassinato, that sounds cool. And so I named myself that when I was 18 years old, not really thinking this is going to be my profession. I've also heard that word means I killed myself in Italian or something. So like when people meet me, they're like, man, you're a weird dude. I'm like, I didn't think about that. Like if I could have it back, I would name myself something funny, like OMG Clay Aiken. I love that name. Something fun. But I mean, I guess the good thing about it is you guys can remember that name and perhaps you can't remember every screen name. And that has helped me a little bit.
That's really interesting too. Yeah, I mean, like Andrew Nemi, for instance, what his name on ACR is like Gramps or something, which I think
is an awesome one. You should name yourself like Venetian fan 1976 or something. You know what I mean? Just some like I'm totally not check raising without the joint. Something like that.
I always have it.
Yeah, right. My next question for you is, where does your current fulfillment come from in poker? Is it making the big tournaments, or do you find a ton of fulfillment from writing books or coaching the thousands of students that you do?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. There's something pure about talking to a guy and giving him a skill he can use anywhere on earth. I love that. Like just really just talking with a guy and like, come on, think about it. And actually kind of pushing the guy I really like, because that's real life. Poker can teach you about that. People are going to push you in poker and people are going to push you in real life. And if you can get to the point you can deal with all these big bets coming at you and people talking smack with you and you can still make money, you can handle a lot of other things in life. So I really do like that work, but it's really intense. So when I do get to play, and I try to play a couple times a week at the very least, at least always Sundays, because that's where I feel like I have a huge edge. And if you play one MTT session on Sunday, that's like 3 weekday sessions if you really go from dawn to dusk. So I always try to play at least then. And that's really my me time. I love grinding at my standing desk while my system is up loud and I got tons of tables going on. I mean, honestly, it's kind of dorky, but I still cheer here and like, fist pump and like pretend it's a knockout blow when I overbet and get people to call, it's like, I get into it, and truthfully, I love being tired deep in a live tournament and knowing I prepared for that moment. I love working out and going to play cards. This feels like a day off to me, not work. So that's really, I'd be lying to you if I told you the money didn't mean anything, but I do it for a lot less money than I make now. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to be successful, you have to have that mentality. And I think most of the people that I know who are successful in poker, they just love competing. Like they've been competitors their whole life, whether it be in sports or whether it be in chess, Magic the Gathering, whatever it is. Like they're just competitors. And it's great that you have such a deep love for the game. And I think that'll lead to profits. Obviously, everyone likes money, but like that's not what it's about.
We all do. I love that piece that you said about how, like, as a coach, like you can give somebody that life skill that isn't just for poker. Like, it's not just a poker skill to be able to deal with multiple variables at once. It's something you can carry over into any workspace that you're in. So I totally agree with you. That's one of those things. Like I was a rowing coach at one time, and that's like one of those things. Like it's a sport that puts you under a lot of stress. You're in a race with 6 other boats and there's noise and there's things going on. So I totally get it. Like that is so cool to be able to provide that to someone, that skill that they can take with them.
Hell yeah. Rowing, that's like really intense, right? Because if one guy drops a little bit, it drags everybody down. Is that how it is?
I'm very short. I was the coxswain. So I was the guy in the back of the boat who was yelling at them to row the boat. And I got here.
That's
so
gig.
Best job in sports. I'm 5'5" and I got to yell at people who are 6'5" and
that's
taller.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Great
yeah.
I love it. So my next question for you, you were extremely successful on websites such as Full Tilt back in the days before Black Friday. How did Black Friday impact your life as an online professional poker player? And where do you see the future of online poker now that things are loosening up with the Wire Act and such?
Yeah, honestly, I'd be lying to you if I told you Black Friday didn't mess me up, because I had to learn how to play poker again. I honestly struggled with it for years, and it was also stressful. I had just final tabled an F-Tops, and a bunch of my net worth was on that site. And it was stressful because that's just the way things go. You have all these different sessions on different sites. You lose money on these different sites. Then you bank on one site and you cash out that money as fast as possible. Just the way it worked out was it happened right as all my money was on that site. So for years and years, that was in limbo. I had to learn how to play poker again. I honestly struggled with it for years. Before, I could just bully weak American players. Afterwards, I had to hire coaches and work harder. I became much more obsessed with finding good spots and smaller sites. So after that, I was on Lock Poker, Carbon, iPoker, all of that. I went to back to cash some. I did play cash games before tournaments, just like 1-2 and 2-4, but I had to do that a little bit more. But I've been loving poker since the pandemic. The stimulus money has been great. I just won the $250K on America's Card Room, and I felt like there was a lot of recreational players in that. I felt like I had to play really solid poker and very patient poker, and that is a skill, but I didn't have to like go out of my mind at any point and try something really above the rim. I had a lot of time to let recreational players make their mistakes. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been nuts, especially just the blow up, whether it be like on these apps, like the Poker Bros, the PPs, the X Pokers, like the action, not even with these sites or these clubs rake screwing you, you can still make insane amounts. Like it's nuts.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, and I was in New York, man, during all of this 2020. Like the underground scene there was still popping off. You would have thought nothing was happening, and it was something else, man. It's been it's just something. You got to always be ready because you never know when it's gonna go nuts. And I think a lot of people just got their stimulus money and just said, you know what, it's time to gamble.
Spin it up.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. It's time to ride. It's been crazy.
It's money they didn't expect to have. They're free. They're just free rolling everything.
It's free money. Well, if they do that bargaining, like if I lose 1,000, I still got $400. I don't need more than $400, and it just goes right. Yeah. And if 1,000 people get that genius idea, there's a lot more money in the ecosystem at that point.
Yeah,
that's great. So you're saying that we're now starting to go, not that we're ever going to get back to the full tilt pre-Black Friday days, but more recreational players than regs than we're used to.
It's been awesome because, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think about this till just now, but with all my friends outside of poker, the hardest part about getting them to play online was getting them to put money on the site. Because back in the day, it was like, okay, you're going to take your credit card. You're going to let some stranger charge $5,000 to it. You're going to call your bank and talk to them that, yes, I did buy sports equipment in China. That's what that's for. It sounds like the sketchiest thing on earth, but now everybody's used to crypto because everybody and their grandmother knows everything about crypto and you can't tell them anything. So everybody's got crypto. Well, if you tell someone, hey, you already got some crypto, you want to put a couple hundred down on this site, gamble up a little bit. Well, a lot of people are going to do that because you already got them past the hardest part. Yeah, exactly. The hardest part was putting money online. Now it's not that far away.
Right.
Yeah. It's just not stressful and people trust the security of their money more. And, well, I mean, again, it depends. You have to be careful. We've talked about this on a few podcasts. But there's a lot of scammers out there. And,
hell yeah!
You just got to be careful with these apps.
Yeah. You gotta know what's up. Well, and that always goes to only deposit money you can afford to lose. And like the second you get a score, just like cash it out as fast as possible. Yeah. I had 50,000 off that ACR score, and I was just like, get it off, go quick. You know what I mean?
Coinbase.
Yeah, exactly. Get it moving. Pay your taxes. Don't deal with that. That's way more paperwork if you don't get on that. Just do the right thing. Move on it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't.
That's right.
For you is pretty segued easily based on the conversation. But as people are gearing up for the World Series of Poker, how large of an attendance do you think we'll have this year? Do you think we'll set the record for the largest main? Is there a specific event or events you specifically are excited for? How are you feeling?
I have zero idea what's going to happen at this WSOP, but the money is loose online, so I wouldn't be surprised if we got some big prize pools. But then again, I don't know about travel restrictions. Are there still a lot of countries that can't come to the United States? And if that's true, what percentage of the fields was that before? I don't know the answer to that. And furthermore, maybe the fields won't be as big, but I don't want to play with any kid from Belarus. I'd much rather play with, I'd much rather play with Roy the postman. So maybe I don't need a big field. I'm looking forward to, now that I think of it, the small buy-ins, because I think they will get so many people playing for fun. And honestly, I think it was Antonio Esfandiari said, do you want to have fun when you go to work or not have fun? And a lot of people want to have fun in a $500 tournament. So that's a good time.
It's crazy how much these guarantees bring in people too.
Hell yeah.
For example, the 3,500 main in Hollywood, I thought was incredibly soft, incredibly.
Yeah.
And then I played an 1,100 that had no guarantee on it in Tampa, and it was the hardest tournament I have ever played in my life. Yeah. I was like, every single player at the table is good. Like, what is this?
Yeah, and a lot of that is the table draw. A lot of that is just people want to say they played the main event. I played the 3,500 in Tampa, and I had I had two guys right off the bayou that we couldn't understand a damn word they said, but they were, they were actually really nice, and they actually were like, nobody watches boxing, but like Sean Porter, if you watch boxing, just punch after punch after punch, maybe not as much finesse as they should have. But yeah, I think because the guarantee was a little lower on that one, I had to deal with more ringers. And there was a kid to my left. Maybe I'd seen him, but there was a bunch of guys I was playing with where I went like, man, this guy can play, and I got to play really tight aggressive that day. But yeah, if you get those big guarantees, I don't know where the hell everybody got $3,500, but God bless them.
Yeah, really. That's the immortal question. Where did these people get $3,500 of cash? Just
not from poker, not from grinding poker.
you guys weren't around when the initial poker boom happened. We used to ask, where the hell did everybody get $10,000? Because you would go to these $10,000 events and be like, there's no way this guy, there would be guys playing Omaha and trying to play 3 cars and stuff like that. It was that nutty back then. And that just shows how much money's in this country.
Jesus, that's a crazy one.
God bless America.
God bless America, baby.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
question for you, Brad?
Yes. So you've written multiple poker strategy books, like we've talked about. You've created coaching sites and continue to partner with people like Jonathan Little for pokercoaching.com content. One of the questions that Bryce and I get really often in like DMs on Instagram and stuff is, where do people get started? What sort of content would you recommend for people who are newer to the game and people who maybe are more experienced in terms of volume but haven't spent the time in the lab?
I would say I would give pretty similar advice to a lot of people, which is I would start with depositing some money you're willing to lose for your education. The financial aspect scares a lot of people, which is when we're losing money, that operates different circuitry in our brains than if we were just playing Monopoly, we'd go balls to the wall. But for some damn reason, when there's $4.40 on it, we all get chicken ass, right? And I would say just put $200 down, expect it to be gone. You've lost $200 before and play $3 tournaments, $5 tournaments, $10 micro stakes, play really low buy-in cash and just expect to lose it and give yourself challenges. Try to 3-bet or fold one day, or only cold call on the button. Play very few tables and talk to yourself while you play. Ask yourself why you're doing everything. If you're betting for value, ask yourself, is he going to call this bet with this, or that hand? If I'm bluffing, is he going to fold that, or that hand to this bet? You will be amazed how much you autopilot and give away money if you just do that. Do this for a time and you'll get more comfortable. And of course, sign up at pokerheadrush.com. And literally almost every day I put out a quiz that will test you on that for free. Those are the fundamentals.
There you go.
Yeah, that was a pretty slick plug. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I think coaching has absolutely helped me just think about stuff, because I'm thinking about how I would explain a situation to a student, and I'm always not 1,000,000% thinking through that spot exactly. I mean, obviously, I've been on autopilot to the point where I'm like, oh, I've been in this spot 1,000,000 times. I know what to do. I know what percentage of the time I should be doing whatever. But then just talking to yourself and thinking about how you'd explain the situation to someone else just makes it that much easier. And I think that's just been infinitely helpful for me personally.
Oh, definitely. What's that phrase? When one teaches to learn, I think was the phrase. There's a lot of times I was talking, who are the best people to coach? People who don't know anything about poker, because they're not embarrassed about anything. One time I saw a guy, what was it? The board came ace 4-7 and the guy had ace queen. And somebody c-bet into him and he just called. And the kid was like, you have a great hand. What the hell are you doing? I'm like, you're absolutely right. You should raise with that hand some percentage of the time. But most people do it 0% of the time. And if you don't have people asking you those questions, it's just not going to open your mind, because it's something like doctors have to take exams every 5 years to freshen up, or if you're in a choir every 5 years, they got to check you again, because when you autopilot, you don't get better. A lot of times you get worse. You drive on the highway a lot of the times with people who have 10,000 hours of driving and they can't operate a turn signal. You know what I mean? So just putting in the hours doesn't do it.
Facts.
That's a really good analogy.
Thank you. I've used that one way too much.
You recycle analogies? I thought this was like an exclusive interview.
I'm sorry, bro. It's one of those things. If you put me on the spot, I'm gonna have to go with the default. But everyone with
the default, exactly.
You're on autopilot. You're on autopilot. Come on.
Dude, facts. I should have come up with something else. I thought the choir was clever. I was like, no one's reaching for this.
No. That was a good one. Yeah. So our last question for you is, as an author of multiple poker strategy books, what do you see as the most important piece of tournament and or cash game strategy that people may not have heard before?
That's a really good one. I think someone what really inflated my win rate was falling in love with overbetting. Finding times a recreational player or reg who is not focusing is just going to call an overbet has changed everything for me. If a board is ace high and you think a guy has an ace and you're playing a $50 MTT, you should really think about overbetting. And in live tournaments, satellite winners get married to hands and don't see how big bets are when they have a bunch of chips to start. When I was playing at WPT Tampa, there was this ringer I hadn't really seen play much before, but he was so good at knowing, okay, this satellite winner has kings, queens, or jacks, and he doesn't want to fold. And the craziest thing was there was an ace on the board and he would bet like 2.2x pot and he would know this guy wasn't going to fold and the guy was out. And I was like, how did you do that? That is like on another level I've never seen. So of course he's got this big old stack. So once I get to deal with him, I've got a lot of problems because he can 3-bet me and put my chips at risk. He can double barrel. He can check raise. He can do a lot of things with these chips that ICM wise aren't worth as much, while my chips on a shorter stack are worth much, much more. So to put yourself in those positions, you got to show up early. You got to see who is really worried about somebody pushing them around. And when they have too many chips, make sure you deprive them of some of them.
Absolutely.
That's a great piece of advice. Yeah. Thank you for pulling that one out.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I read about, I haven't personally had the opportunity to take your course, but I was just reading some of the things you specialize in. And I think ICM specific is probably the part of my game that is the weakest, and knowing in which scenarios I can take spots. Because if I'm playing a cash game, like I'd say I'm incredibly comfortable. Like you can't, I mean, if you bust, reload, yeah, whatever. Right. But in a tournament, when you're playing for a ton of money, especially late, deep, like top 3-4%, like knowing which spots to take, like, okay, I've got ace queen and the cutoff open and I'm in the small blind. How aggressively do I play this? Right. Just knowing those spots is probably biggest thing I personally need to work on.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. I've been working on it too, and my buddies are way better at that. And we've been teaching courses on them at pokerheadrush.com if you want to check it out. But we've been teaching courses on them, and sometimes they'll go, this is a fold here, Alex. And I'm like, really? Really? Oh, man. And I'm like, if I don't know that, a lot of people don't know that. And I've been working really hard, and I still feel like a child with it some of the time. So it's a multi-table satellite. Here's the one to get really good at. Multi-table satellites. A lot of people, if you pay attention to that, people botch that one a lot. People make a lot of mistakes in those. And when it comes to tournaments, a lot of people don't look at the payout structures, which is if they're paying everybody, like if they're paying most of the field or a lot of the field, your job is to min cash, because 292nd and 36 are going to pay more or less the same, or it's going to be 40% more. Yeah. So your first job is to min cash. Then your next part is to get rich or die trying.
Well said. Yeah. Once you hit it, get rich or die trying.
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
There you go. So I think that, do you have any more questions, Ryan, or should we go into the hand history portion?
We can do hand histories.
Awesome. So I'm not sure which hand exactly Ryan pulled, but it looks like he's got it right here. So here we go.
Right.
So this was the Jack-9 suited hand. It was the first one. I don't know.
What did I do? I'm trying to remember. This was from last Sunday, right? Yeah.
No. I never look at the hand, so I have no idea.
I was playing a bunch of tables, so I was gunning. So okay. Let's see. I remember this one now. Let's go.
Yeah, this is a pretty. I mean, I would say this is a pretty common spot people get into, and then they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, especially me. I'm really curious to hear why you did what you did.
Sure.
I read the hand. So folds around here to the button, Pole Train 12. What a fabulous username. And he opens to 10K at 2K, 5K. And you're in small blind with Jack 9 suited. Take it away.
Yeah, so I really like a 3-bet here because I find a lot of people just automatically call with their entire range from the button. And the problem with that is you're going to miss a lot of flops. And if you take a look at his stack, what should you be planning? Don't answer that right away, but let's go a little further.
Okay. So you do opt to go ahead and stick in the 3-bet up to 25,000. So is the rationale for the sizing the depth? Is being that short, given that that's the reason for going 2.5x?
This is online. They're not folding. I mean, the way most people do it is I want to see a flop. It's like blackjack, right? I want to see the cards come out. So it doesn't matter what you put out there. He's going to call. So you might as well give yourself some room to work if you think it's going to be post flop where you're going to make your money. Cool.
That makes a lot of sense. So we stick in the 3-bet, and we do, in fact, the call from the button, or else his hand would have been quite boring. The flop comes 3-10-3, 2 clubs, no heart on board, and it's on you.
Okay, so right here, I'm just going to say, everybody watching this, you should have a plan for the hand right now, okay? Right here, you should have seen this coming pre-flop. The 3-bet was just a sizing that he can call, and it's not super comfortable to 4-bet fold, but most people don't 4-bet fold anyway. But right here, you should look at this board and say, okay, I can see where this is going. So let's see what happens here, and then we'll go to the next part.
Okay. So we do stick in the bet for half pot at 30K, and we get called by the button. Turn rolls off the 3 of hearts, and it's back on us again.
Okay. So everybody watching at home, everybody thinking about this, you just 3-bet, C-bet. The guy called you on the flop. The board now is 3 of diamonds, 10 of clubs, 3 of clubs, 3 of hearts, and he's got 165K back. What would you like to do with 120K in the middle? You got to bet again a lot of the time, because when that 10 is out there, think of what calls you on that flop. When that 10 is out there, a lot of guys that play pretty nitty, they project how other people – they project how they think about poker onto other people. They think, well, I would only continue with a pair there. So that 3 doesn't really scare the pair, right? But here's the thing. That's not how most people think. They want to gamble. They're in position. They get to see what you do on the turn, to be fair. So if they got a queen jack there, a king jack there, a king queen there, an ace high there, especially with the broadways that can develop a lot, a backdoor club, they're going to peel. And on that turn, all of that is missed. And you could set up a river bet if you think he's going to peel one more time and then just fold everything but a 10 on the river. But the thing I like is the bet we use here, and I think I just mashed a button because I was multi-tabling. I think I bet. Did I just bet half pot?
You did.
Okay,
You
so that needs to work. Now look at how big this looks compared to his stack size. A lot of times guys would go like, well, all the money's going in on the river, right? But how often does a half pot bet need to work? It needs to work 33.3% of the time, which means homeboy here is going to have to defend with 2/3 of hands. Now, if you think he was floating a lot of the time, none of those floats got helped on that turn. No backdoor club picked up anything. No Broadway picked up anything. An ace high is good. Think about having 160K and somebody bets 60K into you and you've got ace high. I'm not saying it's impossible for the person to call. I'm saying it's highly mother effing improbable. Right. So the thing is, maybe live you wouldn't do this because the guy can look at you. He can take some time. If he's a thoughtful player, he might put this one together. But online, if a guy's playing 8 tables and he just sees you bet and his peel didn't get there, you got to fire again.
So this is an interesting spot too, because I struggle with this spot specifically because of the SPR. Where I get into this spot and I have 167K and there's 120 in the pot. And I go, well, damn, what do I bet now? Right. Knowing that whatever I do bet, SPR is going to be less than 1 on the river. So I'm not going to have as much. Well, I mean, I guess you could bluff river here pretty efficiently, but you get what I'm getting at.
Yeah. The other thing is there's going to be times position is only as important as the number of streets you play. So this is going to be very easy to play after this point. Most guys are going to fold all their ace highs. They have so many combos of ace highs, if you think about it, because there's 16 combos of ace highs that missed, whereas there's not as many combos of nines or pocket pairs or whatever it is, right? So the most common hands are broadways and aces that missed. And the way this turn is going to go most of the time, if a person is folding a majority of their high cards, is if they've got 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, or 10x, they're going to call. And they're probably not folding on the river unless a club comes. And even then, a lot of people make their big decision on the turn. Yeah, you have a very clean turn bet here, because if you want to gamble on one thing, it's that people fold high cards, especially after their high cards break. Especially when the stack sizes are super awkward. After the guy calls you here, you took a super exploitable line. He got you. Just wrap the table and say nice hand. But it's going to work a lot of the time. You're going to get folds here way more than 1/3 of the time.
So I'm sorry, Russ. I hate to keep running this one over, because I think this is really interesting. If the turn card is, say, something different, like the 8 of clubs, or maybe even like the 7 of clubs, something that doesn't connect with your hand as well and brings in the front door draw, are you going to continue here?
That's a really interesting question, because what's the most important question you should be asking yourself about your opponent then on the flop?
What does he have?
A little bit more specifically. What hand specifically do you need to start asking yourself about?
A club draw.
A club draw, exactly. So what kind of person raises club draws?
What kind of person raises club draws?
Yeah. Aggressive, not aggressive? Which one?
Aggressive players.
Aggressive. All right. So if you look at this guy and he's a 21-14, let's say you're using a HUD, that's a guy who's going to peel with his flush draws. If this guy's 21-20, he's going to go, hey man, I feel like gambling. I'm done messing around with your 3-bet, C-bet BS, right? I'm going to run it up. So if that guy calls you, and so let's say that guy calls you and you know he would have raised a lot of his club draws on the flop. Now you can push a little bit more on the club. And if you think he's going to fold a 10 by the river, that's a little bit more big bet poker, higher buy-in poker. That's something you can run. I would really recommend at low stakes poker, a lot of their analysis ends at I have top pair, I want to call. I'm not saying that about this guy. I don't really know anything about this guy, so I'd be more careful. If I can't even remember, was this this was a Sunday major, so everybody's playing for fun. But yeah, those are some considerations you can have there with the 8 of clubs turn. And it also gives you some equity, so your bet doesn't need to work as much.
So I completely agree with your logic on everything, but I do question the same thing that Curtis said. On the flop on a board of 10-3-3, 2 clubs, why do we elect to go 50% instead of something a little smaller, like 35, 40% or something of that nature? What leads to the decision of half pot?
It was, to be honest with you, it was laziness and multi-tabling. But if I had this back today, I still think I do a lot of half pot size bets too, because you notice it gets super awkward for him on that turn. Whereas they have a lot of training dealing with small bet, because that's what they're seeing all day. So he might, reach into his hat and say, okay, maybe with this ace high, I got to call because Assassinato has been a pain in my ass. But now you're looking down at 60K and you got 160K. You feel like there's no way. I mean, I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying I'm not gambling on it. I'm saying maybe 60, 70% of the time he finds the fold. And that's enough combos when you look at how many combos are peeling here versus how many times he might actually raise a club draw or something along those lines. If he were the type of player to fast play a 10, you could rule out that. I'm not sure I would say that. But I don't mind bigger bets out of position, because what happens is if you force that person into that spot where it's like, take your pair and deal with it, or if you got a high card, good luck to you. The river doesn't really matter as much. What you don't want to do is play this super deep involved pot out of position where you're giving this guy a ton of info up to the big bet section of the river. But I do think there's possibly a way to bet smaller and get away with it. If you think he's just folding the high cards, I think you could do that. But I don't mind the fact that this is much more awkward on this turn.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like your line. And does it end up working?
Yeah, we do end up going half pot again on the turn for 60K.
And we get the fold.
You are successful in getting the fold. And so, I mean, if you go half pot again, is there any special reason behind doing that a second time? Leaves you with 107 back, and it looks like there's going to be something like 200K in the pot when he goes?
Yeah. You could honestly scale it down a little bit, but God, you don't want to give a guy a lot of excuses to call with an ace high, right? And if you do that small bet, a lot of people do the whole, well, it's a small bet, I'll call and I'll reevaluate on the river, which is fine if you're prepared for that and you're going to shove on the river, but it's going to be really hard to time a guy and know for sure he's going to call with an ace high. Whereas this is pretty bleh. but this was a hand people liked from Sunday. But I was thinking, there's no way in hell this guy peels again with Queen Jack or Ace Jack or Ace X or something like that. And right there, you have a clean bet.
Nice. Yeah, and
absolutely.
I love the spot because it's a spot that a ton of people miss in tournaments. It's a spot that I would miss in tournament a lot, to barrel a second time on the 3, which to someone who's not really thinking about it can look like kind of an innocuous card and something where you might shut down in this.
I disagree. I think this is the exact card to bet.
Exactly, but I'm saying that some people would think that the 3 is an innocuous card and that it would be time to shut down the bluff with Jack.
Yeah. What you want to do when you're looking for double barrel spots, the first thing to remember is people, if they're playing low to mid stakes and they're playing recreationally, they want to see the flop because, damn it, I came to play. And 2, once they hit the flop, they want to see if it's good. Thank you very much. And they're going to be calling down a lot of the time. So most of your double barrels should be, I think he called once with a high card. I bet I can get him to fold. And if you actually look at the combinations on Flopzilla, you can be wrong a decent percentage of the time. There's so many combos of just nothing on this board versus pairs that you don't have to be right all that often to be profitable. And actually, I'm going to go to something you guys were talking about at the beginning, apropos of nothing. You guys were talking about multi-way pots. It's always good when you play to have just a couple basic things when you go into that you can work on. So with multi-way pots, okay, so for double barrels, you want to look for times when people call a little too much with high cards. The 10-3-3 board, that's a really good one. With multi-way pots, there's a few things that you'll notice happen in multi-way pots in the United States. And I just couldn't help myself. I have to tell you guys this. One, people don't raise with bluffs in multi-way pots all that often for a very obvious reason. People hit things in multi-way pots and they don't like folding. The second thing is people don't raise pairs in multi-way pots because most likely now that it's 2021, someone has learned at some point in their poker career since the poker boom, hey, if I raise with a pair in a multi-way pot and the pot gets very big, I tend to not like it because usually the pair is not good. So generally, people are pretty honest in multi-way pots post-flop, which is if they've got a pair, they call. With 2 pair or better, they raise. In fact, that's what most of them are just praying for. They somehow think if someone has kings and the board is 10-7-6, the kings is still going to go broke if they just raise a huge amount, which is just not something that's going to happen in 2021. So most people are nut peddling on multi-way pots, which is why they like multi-way pots. Now, this is how you're going to get to them. They tend to not like to fold pairs to the first bet. So you can often, if you flop a set, I've just bet 150% and said, see what happens. And if the board's 10-7-6, I've seen 10-8 not be able to fold. And then they get to the turn and they go, oh God, look at this pot size. No, yeah, exactly.
I can't fold now.
Exactly. Yeah. Brick turns a 4, some brick. You got the 7s. You bet 75% pot. He goes, oh, thank God, it's only 75% pot. But that's a lot bigger because the first bet was big, right? And a lot of and if you want to get good at finding out how often everybody's going to fold, take Flopzilla, take their pre-flop range, and take their folding range and multiply them together. So let's say one guy's folding 80% of the hands and one guy's folding 60% of the hands. It's 0.8 times 0.6. The thing you're going to find out really quickly is if you're bluffing. Now, this is super exploitable, so hopefully no one knows who you are. If you're betting as a bluff, the small bets will work a lot better because they need to work 25% of the time, and sometimes on like a king 2-2 board, everybody's going to fold like 34% of the time, right? Because think about it. If you're sitting there with a high card with like ace high in a multi-way pot and you have somebody to act behind you, you might peel that heads up, but you're not going to peel that with somebody to act behind. So if you don't have a pair, you're probably not going to continue. But that's stuff that is really hard to estimate because it's not a hard and fast perfect rule. I think it was Steve Zolotal pointed out, once one guy calls, that changes the situation for the next guy because it's different pot odds price. So his folding range changes. So that's not a perfect way to do it, but it's a good way to estimate it the first few times you're doing it. So you want to make sure you give yourself some padding. Do your overcards, will they be clean outs? Are they broadways? Are they like an ace that's a reverse implied out that gives like 2 pair or something like that? Can you turn draws? Can you keep firing? Is he likely to fold second or third pair? If you think of these things in your next session in multi-way pots and put them in bullet points, I think you'll do a lot better.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, well, that wraps up our interview for today. Thank you so much for coming on, Alex. We will link your course in the description. He has amazing reviews and can absolutely transform your game. So make sure to hit him up and check out his website. I am excited to see you in a few months out for the World Series. I'll buy you a drink and excited to meet you in person.
Thank you guys for having me. It was so good. You guys take care, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much. You have a good one, Alex.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye. All right, so we have 2 more for you guys. One is our good friend Rishi's hand. I believe that's the one we're pulling up. And then one is an Instagram hand that we will go over with you guys.
Yeah, so we'll start with Rishi's hand. This comes from the 510 Streets of the Bellagio. Rishi has, I think, pretty recently become a regular at the 510 1500 buy-in, which is a place that many a poker player has made a living, a game in which many a Vegas reg has made a living. So it's cool to watch him play in these games, and his content that he's been putting out has been awesome. But now getting beyond this, here we go. Under the Gun opens here is a young pro who raises to 30. That's all the info we have on him, is that he's a young pro, not much else. There's a call from the hijack, and we're on the button here with pocket jacks. So, I mean, I think it's a fairly clear 3-bet spot with the flatter in between. If there is no flat in between, and we're talking about a young, tight, aggressive pro opening from under the gun, on the button, are we just automatically 3-betting this every time, or are we flatting decent?
I mean, obviously, some percentage of both, player dependent. It depends how much information we have on them. But no, we're not always 3-betting this hand. But given the call in between, definitely, obviously, makes it more of a 3-bet than a call. But yeah, just player dependent.
Yeah. Okay. I don't disagree with you. The tighter they are, the less likely you are to 3-bet this exact hand. So,
but I mean, I'm way more likely to 3-bet the young pro than the old man coffee.
Yes,
obviously, under the gun. So yeah, I mean, considering on the button, I'd look to 3-bet this a good percentage. I'm 3-betting more than I'm calling the young pro from under the gun. But I still have a decent percentage of flats there.
So they up the size to 150. So we'd open 30 and a call between. So there's like
I like the sizing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with you at all.
Little, maybe 140. I don't know. 150 is fine though.
Yeah, and I think that, I think this is the exact point where I think if it was anything above 150, we'd be like, oh, that's probably a little big, but like double what the pot size was there, I think is at the max point.
Yeah. And he actually likes generally sizing his 3-bets very heavily. And he also 3-bets the shit out of people in the cutoff and in the button.
Yes.
In his construction outside of that and how balanced it is. But anyways, we'll talk about that later, Rishi. All right, let's see what happens.
We get a call from the young pro under the gun, and the hijack folds.
All right, pretty expected.
So now we're going to the pot heads up here. Under the gun versus button, and flop is queen 9-5, 2 clubs. Under the gun, checks in flow. Pretty obvious check spot for him. What are we doing here? We're pocket jacks, and they're the red jiggities, no less.
What are you doing, Ryan?
That's a great question. I think this is a scary board given that it's the under the gun opener and they have all of the Queen X, all of the really strong Queen X, I should say, not all of the Queen X, but
you ever 3-betting ace queen on the button here with a limper in between?
Ace queen,
king queen suited. So. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we totally have queens. Yeah, he's got 9s, he's got 5s, not really 5s. He's got more 9s than 5s. But no, I'm absolutely looking to c-bet this. It's just a matter of what sizing. I mean, we can definitely look to check this some percentage of the time, and I'm more scared of a queen 10 or queen jack 5 board than I am of this board. But I think we should definitely look.
Ace queen 9.
Yeah, and I'm probably looking to size this probably in the neighborhood of 155 to 175. Yeah. Somewhere around there.
Yeah, so like a little under
to see our size. Yeah, we're barely.
We have to go a little smaller. I think this may be a thing where like this happens to me a lot in live play, where when you're trying to guesstimate the size of the pot with the chips that are in there, you'll bet an amount that you think is exactly a third, and you'll.
Bro, how do you not know? How do you not just do that in your head of what's been done? Like they raise to you, and then you add the blinds. Like why are you looking in the middle? You just replay the hand in your head.
Yeah, but I mean, even when you're doing the math in your head, you can still make mistakes.
I'm flawless.
Okay, yeah, all right, thanks. But
right.
I mean, I don't think it's a mistake or not. But
I don't think we should assume mistake. I think he might just be betting small because he thinks he can fold the other guy out again. I don't think this sizing is going to make him fold all that often, honestly, unless exactly 7s or 8s or something like. I don't think he's folding to this on the flop very often at all.
Yeah,
his 10 jacks are always continuing. His king queens are continuing. His ace queens are continuing. His 9 10s, his jack 10s, his jack 9s, his queen. Like, what is folding?
Right. So that, I mean, let's bring up the interesting question: is it worth betting if he's not going to produce?
Yes. Yeah, because if we just check, then are we checking to trap red kings? We're not.
Right.
So we're playing perceived range. We're not playing our exact hand.
Okay. So the young pro check calls the 120. Turn comes deuce of spades, double, 2 different.
I say now we size up. Now we size up.
Yeah, so it checks over to us now. We've got 1230 in the stack, 585 that's in there. So I mean, we're kind of in a good spot to bet.
Yeah, that too.
You know, like you can bet really large here because we've got SPR.
Yeah, we're nitpicking, Curtis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was nitpicking. So yeah, okay. So you're thinking somewhere in the department of what, 300 or 400 bigger, 400?
Yeah, 410, 420.
Right. So that's gonna put us
because if we bet 420, yeah, we leave an SPR of like, I mean, obviously not much. There's gonna be, yeah. I mean, I'm betting like 410, 420.
Yeah. Okay. So we opt to stick in the bet of 250, which I don't like. And I think the main chief reason being that we've now given all of the draws the correct price to call us here, I believe.
Wait, why the hell did we just bet 250, Rishi? What the heck? What calls on the flop? Like, like even if he has a hand, if you have 10s in this scenario, are you folding to a bet like this? I'm genuinely curious.
Oh, that's a really good question. If I have, it's also a question about what color 10s do I have. If I have
so you got 10s with the 10 of clubs.
I think that makes me less likely to call this, right?
Yeah, but 250 into are you folding?
Right.
It might make you less likely, but I'm just curious.
I really don't know. I don't know.
Yes. This is important. If we bet and get called again, obviously shutting down river. But that's why I also like sizing up more, because you're making him make a decision essentially for his entire stack. So yeah, strong draws will call. That yeah, exactly. We want to fold out his draws, and we want to put a lot of pressure on him, make it appear as though we're pricing ourselves in to setting up a river jam, when in reality, if we do get called, we are shutting down river. I absolutely agree with Curtis.
Right. So we
and I think we should be betting bigger.
Right. And so we get called. And this is one of those situations where, he may have been trying to size it so that they had a closer SPR on the river, but in reality we didn't want
that. But
Yeah, because we gave him too good of a price to continue. Now, the river rolls off the jack of clubs. Woo, kind of a spicy river card. And the young pro checks for a third time.
Oh, I'm putting it in. Screw you. You got a flush nice hand. I'm putting it in. Call me a donk. I'm putting it in. Suck it, ace queen.
It's really, really interesting. Yeah, because like that's
ace queen with the ace of clubs.
There were, I think Jonathan Little reached out to him and said that he should check turn and then look to bet river.
No, I'm also kind of joking on the river. What I actually like the best on river is bet ball and maybe. Yeah. I like betting something either tiny or jamming. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 to 325 or jamming. It's to the point because he has more flushes than we do. I mean, yeah, we've got the ace, whatever. This is a spicy river. But I like betting to induce. We can jam it some frequency, but I expect if he had a hand that needed protection, such as ace queen, unless he had like a nut blocker like the ace of clubs, that he should be looking to raise at some point in this hand. So when he doesn't, actually don't expect him to have that strong. And if we bet really small, especially if he just has a hand that he wants to decide to turn into a bluff, maybe a hand that decides just I don't know. But I think betting to induce is the move here.
That's a really
betting to induce or jamming. We did like we're never betting just like 500. Well, I don't actually don't remember what he decides to do, and I actually remember now this hand he shared on his story, and someone else said betting to induce, and I absolutely agree with them. Curtis, what are you doing on this river? I agree. They're absolutely.
Most flushes lead river.
I think value.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So you're saying value bet. So what are you sizing your value bet? Because you essentially are answering the question exactly opposite of mine. Okay, do you think ace queen is raising this turn or no? Because we still have all the aces and kings. But anyways, yeah. What do you guys?
Yeah, I mean that as played, I think I get to this river card and then I'm pretty terrified of the flush that's come in.
You're terrified of the flush, bro. Most flushes lead this river. What flushes does he have? Literally, also look at the board. What flushes does he have? Like, what are you saying he's opening under the gun? King 10 of clubs? Like, 9-10 of clubs?
That this was a logical thought. See, this is the problem. This is the thing. I've been trying to tell you, Bryce. You're over here on the spectrum, and I'm like here. You know?
Okay, I know I get heated. I know bet 400. Okay, yeah, 400.
That's actually around. Yeah, Jonathan Little's recommendation was as played to bet river like 550. I think was what he said.
Really interesting. So
yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Ace queen doesn't raise turn. I agree. Most of the time, ace queen doesn't raise turn, and I agree that we can get value from that. Do you think ace queen folds to a jam? Because I think it looks bluffier if we jam here than if we bet 500. Looking 500, I think looks like straight value. I guess that's also partially because my strategy. I like to pull the shit out of everything and put you in tough spots. And by betting 500 here, it's still a tough spot, especially if you have like ace queen and I guess you're calling. I guess it depends on the image that you've cultivated as well in terms of how you're going to value bet this and how much history you have with a specific villain. But if you don't have that much history, you can 100% get the train of thought that we should just be value betting this. We shouldn't get too tricky. We shouldn't try to jam and get called by something that's perceptively light. And we shouldn't also try to induce because how often are they actually going to spaz off and rip into us? So I can get behind the train of thought that we should be value betting this. But at least you didn't check. If you checked this, I would be slapping you silly. That's the important thing. So what did we bet?
I think he did check.
No, he did. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. What the Rishi? No, he didn't, bro. What?
He checked it back and he won. He was good.
Oh, really? Oh, we won. I'm shocked. What do you mean? What? What do you mean we check this? How often do we think the opponent is trapping with a flush? Answer me. Give me the combos that he's raising under the gun, that he's going 3 streets with, that he decides to check down. Because if he does, let's assume he's raising 7-8 of clubs. And let's say, okay, we've got a gutter, we've got a flush draw. Let's call 2 streets. When we hit on the river, if we're not betting, why the hell are we calling the flop in the turn? We are losing immense amounts of value, especially when the freaking dude on the button is checking sets on the river, bro.
He's checking.
Yeah, if we bet and he jams, it's just always a flush. Yeah. So why are we not betting? Like, okay, if he has it and he's trapping the small percentage of the time, nice hand. Tap table. But no, we have to bet this.
Yeah,
we can't be like, ooh, there's 3 clubs on board. We're. I have a lot of respect for you, Rishi. I am just shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Rishi and his game as well. He's come a really long way.
Yeah. Yes, this is the problem. We didn't put a single dollar in the pot while ahead.
We were ahead.
Reasonably assume, I think 98% of the time that we had, like, oh my. All right, I don't really have much else to say on this hand. Let's go to the next one. I'm heated.
Okay, yeah. We're done. So interesting one. Everyone learned a lesson. We all learned a lesson there. It was great. Okay, fabulous.
Wow, he checked it, bro.
Ooh, so this one we have a viewer submission. Always good to have viewer submission.
Unfortunately, I know the result of this hand, which is the first time in a while, so I might be able to.
Oh god, so sad. Okay, so the one thing to note about this is that there's a button straddle, and per the confines of this software, I couldn't do it. So enjoy the under the gun straddler.
That's fine. No, we understand.
I just had to put the extra $2 in the pot, so he doesn't exist. In reality, what actually
let's make it 45-50.
Limped. So the small blind limped. It folds around to the cutoff, who limps, and now we're sitting here with 9-7 of hearts on the button.
All right, let's make it 45 or 50.
What a genius you are. 55.
55 is. I like 50. I like 55. That's fine. Yep. It's a little big. And 55 is fine.
Right, and this is fine. We're going to be in position post flop. 9-7 suited is a perfectly fine hand to do this with. Yeah, great. So cutoff does end up making the call. So he limp calls out of position, and here we go to the flop. Queen 7 deuce, 2 clubs. Cutoff puts in the check.
35%.
I totally agree. I think Queen 7 deuce is like, it's like the Ace 7 deuce. It's like the epitome of a super unconnected board. There's not a lot of
30%. We don't even have to go 35.
You're going to get a lot of folds. We're going to get a lot of folds with a 30% bet, which I think is really what we want here with 9-7
hard. So we bet 40-45.
He checked.
What the fuck? Okay. Let's see a turn.
Okay.
All right. So low frequency check. We'll mark it up as low frequency. What's the turn? What's the turn?
Oh yeah, Bryce and I. If you ever hear us say that, that's when we make mistakes, we cover them up by saying they're low frequency.
Things that I do low frequency though. Okay. So if this is checked to us, we'll be betting, sir. We have no club. We have no spade. We're probably gonna get like led into at this point. I don't even know what happens. I only know what happens. Yeah. Okay, we get led into. Now what are you gonna do, buddy guy?
Yeah,
you're probably just gonna flat. You're probably just gonna flat. Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right.
So I mean, yeah, it's an interesting thing. So what do we think that the cutoff is leading with? That.
So much. Why are we checking flop? I mean, the 4, we don't have. He's got all the 7s, 4s, dude, 5, 6 suit. I don't know. When we check, if we have a queen, we probably want protection a lot. Unless we have exactly like ace queen with the ace of clubs. Like, how often are we checking this flop? Like, I don't know. Not often. Yeah. So I think the cutoff is too wide. We check flop. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's why we call it low frequency, because our hand does need protection with somebody overdrawing for free. 100%. It's literally a value bet for protection,
especially in a libbed call pot where they're going
to. We can by so much. We can get called by so much.
Yeah.
All right.
It's way behind us, which is the real
river.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. I know what this man has now. Oh my God, do we fold? No way. Tell me we don't. Oh no, there's no way because we figure out the villain's hand. Okay.
So.
All right. So.
Well. Okay. We'll get there, Bryce. So now he leads again into us for 130.
Boy, if you just flat this, I'm gonna just
throttle him.
Yeah.
So I think this is a definite raise spot.
We can raise small. Very small.
I mean, I tend to agree. Well,
300. 300.
Is the purpose here just targeting? What are we targeting?
I mean, Queen X that decides to Queen Jack, King Queen.
Right, because
that he's betting turn for his value hands. Yeah, right. I mean, if you have a boat, nice hands or whatever.
And so we do opt to stick in the raise here.
If you just have deuces or 4s, like okay.
And
whoa, he actually made it 300. Nice. I didn't know that. I like his sizing.
Yes, so he does. He pops up to
300. We get jammed on?
And the cutoff repops him to 740.
Okay. The reason I'm not folding is because how I played flop. If you have deuces or 4s, nice hand. You never have queens. We block like what are you repping exactly? Deuces or 4s? What do you think we have though? Because if we have a hand like ace queen, king queen, we are using this river because you have sevens. So the exact hands you're repping are pocket deuces and pocket. That's it. That's it. And I'm just not folding because how we played flop.
That's interesting. So do you think he has a lot of nothing that comes to this river?
I mean, that's the question. Like, do we think he just has bricked clubs, which again we don't block, or like what is he repping? I mean, that's the good question. He must have just either complete air or bricked clubs / spades that decides. I mean, he also again has more 7s than we do. Oh, interesting. You think it's snap fold? I disagree because how we played flop. I think I am tainted by knowing the results of this hand. But yeah, because when he does lead on this turn, it does look pretty boat heavy. But like I think it's you think it's an underbluff spot? All right, let's see what he has.
Well, actually,
we fold.
Putting in the fold and villain tabled Jack 10 of clubs, I believe.
Was it Jack 10 of clubs?
I thought it was Jack 10 of clubs or Jack 10 of spades. It might have been spades.
That's very. He said it was an airball bluff, so I think it might not even have been either. And that's also not an airball bluff. If it's a, let me check what he said to me. But yeah, kid's got balls. I think this is a lot of deuces and fours, but at the same time, it depends of how competent of a player he is, because he absolutely has more sevens than we do.
Yeah,
and unless we're repping exactly queens, he can totally get away with saying he has deuces and fours more.
It was Jack 10 of spades was villain's hand.
I agree this is an under bluff spot, and I agree Jack 10 of spades. Okay, that's not a complete airball bluff.
What do you mean? On the river?
He had bricked spades. I mean, yeah, he has complete airball in the sense, but how he played the hand makes sense. We checked flop. We checked flop. He should be betting turn. I mean, it's ballsy as hell to re-raise us here, and I don't hate the fold, but he has exactly deuces or fours, which, yes, he can have, and yes, I understand us getting away from. I think I wish we had more info on villain, because if this is the standard if this is the standard 2-5 player, I actually do agree with Curtis. This is a fold. This is a really hard thing to call. If I'm playing against a very competent pro, I am calling. I am calling.
Right.
Against the average player, I agree. I get behind a fold. But like,
I be betting a river.
I genuinely, if I am playing this hand against like Jordan, would play the hand like this. I would say, screw you. He would call me on the river and he would be right. like, and then sometimes I would just have it and he'd look stupid. But like, I think this hand is really, really interesting, because I don't disagree. I don't disagree with their analysis and that understanding that he's so just boat heavy here. But at the same time, like, when we play the flop the way that we do, a competent player can absolutely attack that, because unless we have ace queen with like the ace of clubs, I'm not really, and like, you more so than I am doing this. You're like, okay, I have such a nutted hand, I just want value, I'll get it at a later street. I don't do that. I go for value from the beginning, and like any hand that I have. Like, I don't give a shit about blah, blah, like you know, I'm c-betting. I'm over c-betting, especially in the games that we play. I'm way over c-betting. And the reason I get away with it is because you idiots aren't attacking it. I love villain's play here too, especially because it is an under bluff spot. I like it. And how we like,
super creative. Yeah, to come up with the bluff there with Jack 10 suited, because no one 3-bets the river here without it. And like you said, you're representing exactly deuces or fours, but the problem is that the button here is going to sit here and go, what is he bluffing with? Like, does he actually have the nuts on him?
And that makes it such a sicko spot. Yeah. And that's why sometimes you have to take sicko spots. Like, I have done stuff that literally you'd be like, why the hell are you doing that? But it works. And the reason why it works is because I know what you don't have. I know what you don't have. And if you want to say, okay, I'm going to call you with like the third or fourth nuts here, cool. But I'm going to put all the pressure on the world in you because how you played the hand.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the most important thing to realize about the spot. Whether we think it's a call or whether we think it's a fold, at the end of the day, it does not matter. Because we misplayed this flop, we put ourselves in this scenario in which we can be exploited by the villain. And that's exactly what happened. And it put us in an incredibly difficult spot, which I do not fault you for the river fold. I don't. But we wouldn't have been in this spot if we had correctly c-bet the flop for protection.
That's really interesting. That was a cool hand. Like, this episode has been absolutely fantastic. Holy crap.
No, absolutely.
All 10 of you who are in chat right now bulling with us. I've seen the chat freaking flying down.
No, it's been fun, and I absolutely love interacting with you guys and dissecting the hands, because these spots aren't obvious, especially when these spots occur at different stakes. Like, if this spot occurred in a 1-2, 1-3 game, I am literally snap folding this river so quickly it's not even funny. But when we're playing at these higher stakes with these people who have higher level thinkings and know what we should be doing in the majority of times on different streets, then we can reevaluate and find these calls in these situations that other times would just be such a fold.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I am down to throw a tourney.
Tourney? Ooh,
I say once we hit 500 subs, let's give away like $200-300. Let's do it, babe.
Yeah, 100%. That sounds like a good time.
Good idea, Ben. But anyways, there's going to be a great game tonight at 8:30 for those of you still listening. And Clark Poker will probably be joining us. I don't know if he'll be joining us for the Zoom. It looks like he's punting at Magic City. There will be a Zoom call come through. There's going to be 51, 1-2, even a PLO game running. So if you guys like that, if you guys want to interact with us on Zoom, hit me up. Cannot wait. thank you again for tuning in. We are excited for episodes coming up. We are still trying to get Patrick Antonius on the schedule, but it looks like that will happen eventually.
It is. We're working it out.
In the meantime, thank you again for tuning in. We will see you guys next week, and we'll see some of you tonight. Have a good night.